Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, the day before the deadline in the NHL. Great to have you all with us. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis. Special shout out to Reem and Connor for holding it down the last couple of days as I try to make my way off the DL. But I'm back, and I will be ready to go tomorrow for our extended show. Don't forget, we're going live at 11 a.m. tomorrow on YouTube, and we'll take it right through the 2 p.m. deadline through 3 o'clock at our regularly finishing time. So a double show tomorrow for those of you that have joined us in the past. It's always one of our biggest shows of the year. Myself, Connor, Remo, as well as a myriad of guests will be popping in, talking about all the activity around the National Hockey League, of course, with the focus on your Winnipeg Jets. Of course, it is game day today. We got the East-leading Tampa Bay Lightning in town to take on the Jets. It is, of course, one of the Winnipeg Sports Talk games of the month, thanks to everyone that got tickets tonight. I am a game time decision, but Remo will be there, a bunch of our crew. I know the game is sold out. There is one more game that we'll be doing as a group. Still a couple tickets remaining, but not many for the final game against the Philadelphia Flyers. I believe it's a Saturday night game. I believe April 11th. So if you haven't made it to one of those games or want to make sure you're with us for that final one to sort of wrap up the season, would love to see you there. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST for those. We've had some deals made. We've had a deal kiboshed by a no trade. We'll get to all of that coming up in just a minute. Connor will jump on for a couple minutes to fill us in on the lay of the land heading into tonight's game after today's morning skate. And we'll talk what it's like being in the room in an NHL team the day before the deadline with JP Vigier. We'll get into the pros and cons of no move clauses for the players and for the league with JP, as well as Brandon Rewucki, who's going to join us a little bit later on. The Oilers have made more moves, traded another first-round pick. Tom Gazzola is going to jump on a little later on. And our friends at CoolBet have some really cool props up that dropped last night for potential trades tomorrow. So Jake will jump on at the end. We'll take a look at the slate for the CoolBet lines and let you know what you might be able to sprinkle on when it comes to who might get traded and where they might end up tomorrow. Just before we get into the show and welcome in Michael Remis, huge thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Special welcome aboard to our newest partners, the Manitoba Building Trades and Manitoba Federation of Labor, as well as, of course, CoolBet Canada, the Winnipeg Jets, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. We'll fill you in on the Clean Line lines coming up in just a minute for tonight's game. Of course, Princess Auto, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, and Rowley's Transfer. The St. B Mega Millions Lottery. Tonight's the deadline. We'll tell you more about that later on, but St. B Mega Millions Lottery.ca. Get your tickets before midnight to be ready to go for the early bird prizes, over $280,000 being given away. Of course, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, and of course our friends at Akens Lake. And we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. All right. Might have a sore back from carrying the show for the last couple of days. Well, I've been down for the count, but Michael Remis is back with us right now. Remo, thanks again for holding it down. And what's going on? We got about 25 hours before the gun goes in the NHL trade frenzy.
Yeah, great to have you back, Huss. Had a nice time at the game Tuesday. We talked about that yesterday, but really just counting down to the deadline. I've had a number of trades here. None from the Winnipeg Jets, and I feel like people around the league starting to be like, hey, what's up with Winnipeg? They're near the bottom of the standings, and you're not really hearing anything about any of their players, but I am enjoying seeing what else is going on around the league. I was dialed into the 3 late games last night, had a nice night for that. Saw Nikolai Ehlers have a hat trick, his second of the year, eclipsing the total of hat tricks by Winnipeg Jets players this year, but I mean, we could go on and on. I scored 2 goals in half a period. I'm thinking to myself, though, that's more goals than Gus Nyquist has all season. Anyways, moving on. So we could go on and on. It's been a rough season for the Jets, and traditionally the trade deadline the last couple of years, we're talking about who are they going to add, and now we're going to wait and see if they make any moves at all. It seems like no players being held out of the lineup tonight.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, just on that topic, I'll throw the why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray out to everybody right now. And I'm assuming that you are a Jet fan, and this is basically for Jet fans. Like, in your opinion, what would be the best case scenario for tomorrow? Like, what would you like to see happen? And let's deal in reality. No one's throwing a first-round pick for Luke Schenn. But like, what would make you? Because I mean, listen, I think Chevy's feeling like there's a lot of talk in the market. There's talk out of the market about like what's going on in Winnipeg. What are they doing? I mean, I don't suspect for a minute that there'll even be a conversation involving any of the Jets' top players. Scheifele, Connor, Morrissey, Hellebuck, Velarde, all on long-term deals. I don't really expect that they'd really talk Cole Perfetti. Maybe if there's something that comes up in the offseason, sure, but I don't think that's a deadline deal. And then there's everybody else. Now, there's the obvious, unrestricted free agents, the aforementioned NyQuil, as some have referred to him as. There's Luke Schenn, Tanner Pearson, Cole Koepke, Colin Miller on the blue line. I guess the big question I have is what sort of demand is there? So what would be good? How many players gone? What could you get back? Let us know in the chat. Remo, let me put that to you. I mean, when we're finishing up the show tomorrow at 3 p.m., in your opinion, considering where the Jets are right now, what would be a win for Kevin Cheveldayoff and the organization?
I think it's trading Stanley for a second. If you can trade in Schenn or anyone, 4th, 5th, you can get the 2nd and the 4th back that you gave away last year. I think that would be a win. How are they going to do that? Is that realistic? I'm not sure. I think Stan is the guy who has value. That's the player that you would look to trade. But they gave up the 2nd and the 4th in the trades last season. If you can get that back, I think that's a win. I think the Jets are in a real tough spot, and I think you're seeing, the fan confidence level in the Jets management to get out of this, I think it's at a low, just based on what we've seen in the last 12 months. So I'm curious where we're going to be at, after the deadline tomorrow. But again, stand for a second if you can get the 4th back for anyone. But I don't think the Jets players have a ton of value in the market. You're not seeing them on trade boards. They also don't have any prospects that have a ton of value right now.
Well, listen, that's a whole nother conversation to me. That is way more concerning, because of, and we're going to get into the fact of how difficult it is to sign players, but also to trade for players because of all these damn no trade deals. So it puts that much more emphasis on draft picks and hitting on those picks and developing them. And that's a conversation that I think we really focus in a lot more on after this week, when the dust settles on everything. It's interesting you mentioned Stanley and a 2nd rounder. I'll be honest, I would be... Now listen, if they know that he is as good as gone, like if they've talked to him and said, listen, I'm going to be seeing what's out there at UFA. This is my one opportunity to do it. I have a feeling there'd be plenty of interest. Then I guess you trade him for what you can get. I would be underwhelmed if it was just a 2nd for Stanley, especially seeing, and we'll get to some of these moves that have already been made. But, Remo, let's do a poll here. Would you, if the Jets trade, would you rather the Jets trade Logan Stanley for the return as a 2nd rounder, or re-sign him at, let's say, somewhere between $4 and $5 million? You can figure out. Up to you on how long. But they get a deal done to keep him, or he's traded for a second rounder. What would you prefer? And the reason I put it out there like that is that this has been a topic on this show all year long. And it is polarizing. And listen, there have been some people that have been hammering on Stanley for 5 years that don't really want to give him the credit for the way he's played this year, in my opinion. And they've sort of dug in their ground. And there's other people that are Stan fans that are saying, we don't care about any of that. Like, he's been awesome this year. He's a very popular player. He does some things that no one else on the Jets are doing. We want to keep him. So just of the people that are there, I'd love to know if those are your two options. You're either signing him for somewhere between 4 and 5, or you're trading him and the return is a second round pick. What would you choose? To me, it's a difficult one because I think with what he's done this year, Remis, I would make the argument that the return for Logan Stanley, even on an expiring contract, should be more than a second round pick. I'm just not sure that that's out there for him.
Yeah, I agree. Like you saw what Brandon Carlo got a first last year. That was the one from the Leafs, and that's going to be a high pick, seemingly, from Toronto. But I think there's other players out there, Huss, that are ahead of him in terms of, who you'd want to trade for. So, that's what it is right now. Maybe, does Detroit want to trade a second for him? Does Buffalo? Is that plan B for Parayko? But Huss, he's a third pairing defenseman. I think that's a position on the depth chart that's kind of replaceable for the Winnipeg Jets. And do you want to tie up on a team that is desperate for someone else who can score goals in a third pairing defenseman who's going to be behind Morrissey and Sandberg? So I don't know in terms of roster construction if that's what the Jets want to do. If they say, okay, Logan, we like you, this is what we're going to offer you, and he says, hey, I want to see what I can get elsewhere. I think I can get the $5 million AAV for 5 years. The Jets aren't going to have a choice, so they got to decide what is it worth in that roster spot. Third pairing, left side D, is it worth paying, signing that right now? And I don't think that it is, Huss.
We'll bring Connor in. We'll see what he has to say on that. Here's Yakman in the chat. If we can't sign a third pairing defenseman that can take some of the fights, saving Lowry, then we kind of need to sign him. I'm not sure whether that kind of came through, but I think it seems that it's seen what a bit. Biff Spliff said Treleving lost his job with that Carlo trade. What an imbecile. Now, there was term on that. But listen, I mean, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback all these things now. Nobody was saying that then. They're like, wow, they got this young, big defenseman with term on his contract, right-handed shot. That's what everybody wants. And then, obviously, he didn't have a good year this year, and the Leafs have been terrible. And now that draft pick that they traded, is going to be, potentially like 7th, 8th overall. It's top 5 protected, not top 10 protected, which is unfortunate for Toronto. But, yeah, and then listen, Nick Lyman says, Remis speaking logically, I'm with you. I mean, listen, I do understand that Nick and a lot of people are on that. And to be honest, I mean, I do think you have to maximize the value. For the record, I don't think there's a contract to be signed right now for Stan in between $4 and $5 million. I mean, I think that he would be nuts, frankly, to do that. I mean, I think you go to the offseason. I think about a team like San Jose that would look at a player like him that's 27 years old. They have 2 defensemen signed next year to NHL deals. I think we're gonna be shocked at what is on the market for Stan, and that's why I don't think there really is the path to sign him. He would need to really, really, really want to stay here to do that. And I think his agent, if he's doing his job, probably says, let's play this out and see what happens. You can certainly talk to the Jets in the offseason if you want. But based on what we've seen elsewhere, the season that he's had, his size, everything that he brings to the table. First, the Jets will be losing something. Some people don't want to give him any credit. I will. I think, his size, toughness, all of that. Now, did they need that the rest of the season? Not really. So I'm certainly not making the case that you have to keep him for anything other than for this season. But if it was only a second-round pick coming back for Stan, I would be underwhelmed. I don't know whether there's a first-rounder out there, but I would say this, that if it's a second-round pick that's coming back, I would hope that there is at least another prospect or drafted player that's maybe in the American Hockey League that can come here to Winnipeg tomorrow at the deadline and, get a dozen or 15 games and have the organization a little bit of a better look at this player that comes in. Let's bring in Connor for a minute. He was down at the skate this morning. Connor, what's going on?
Good, Huss. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm
good to see you back on the show.
I'm not doing great, but this is a big couple days for the show, so I wasn't going to miss.
Yes.
But just before we get to tonight's game, like if the Jets realize that they are not going to re-sign him, and I don't know, maybe they want to, maybe they think, oh, there's no way, but let's just say that that's off the table, and they've said, hey, listen, we're going to see what's out there July 1st, which I think would certainly be the smart thing for the player and the agent to do. What would be a return for Stanley that would, in your opinion, be, okay, you know what, that's a fair, they did pretty well on this?
Based on what we've seen around the league so far, Huss, I think a second rounder plus maybe like a B prospect. And you brought it up there saying like a player that can come to the American Hockey League or even push for an NHL job right now, a younger player coming in right now, in addition to a second round picks are getting thrown around the league like candy right now. That's kind of like a first rounder equivalent package. So I could see like, can Logan Stanley get a first? I would not be shocked if he did. Could Logan Stanley get a second and a B prospect? I would not be shocked at that either. And I think that's a package that's realistically available for the Winnipeg Jets for this player. And one that, I mean, we've been talking for months, like, oh, if they can't sign him, well, clock's ticking. Like we are we're 30 minutes away from being 24 hours out from the trade deadline. So if a contract hasn't come now, like TikTok, it's time to start exploring some trade options. And I know you'll ask me about the lineup tonight. I don't know. I was pretty shocked sitting there seeing the line rushes that Logan Stanley's going to be playing tonight, given both of you guys are talking about how out of all the pending UFAs, he easily has the most value of all of those guys. I was just kind of shocked to see that. I don't know if you guys were too.
Yeah, well, so just give us the update on that. I mean, there's the old, like, this is the night I was in the lock shop trying to figure out, okay, who are we getting on tonight? Who's getting sat out for trade-related reasons? By the looks of it, at least coming from the morning skate, there will not be some guys in the press box waiting for their phone to ring.
No, and Mike McIntyre was asking the question to Scott Arniel, and Arniel jumped in and was like, well, we have a lot of players on IR, so we can't really do that. There is one player that is a left shot defenseman that could play tonight, Huss, that is not hurt, and that's Ville Heinola. So I get that for the forwards. Like, you can't sit Gustav Nyquist and Tanner Pearson tonight because you genuinely don't have another healthy forward to put in. I get that. But on the blue line, that excuse or reasoning doesn't really fly because Stanley's in and Heinola's healthy. And Luke Shen is in too. So, yeah, there's no changes from how the lineup ended Tuesday night's game against Chicago. Connor Scheifele, I have followed the top line. Velarde slides down to the second line with Lowry and Perfetti. Nyquist, Taves, Dewar, Koepke, Bear, and Pearson. Again, no extra forwards on this team right now. So even if they wanted to sit a Nyquist or whoever, can't really do it. And then Stanley, DeMello, Sambrick, Salamonson, Fleury, Shen. Blue line is the same as normal. Josh Morrissey skated again in a non-contact jersey. And just another bit of news on the Winnipeg Jets. Scott Arniel said that Colin Miller, had a setback, and he's now week to week again after he was, progressing and seemingly day to day. And in a yellow non-contact jersey, he's back to being off the ice and not skating. So Colin Miller back to being week to week. But the Jets have one healthy player who's not going to play tonight, and that's Ville Heinola. And I thought Ville would get in for either of Stanley or Shen, especially Stanley, given how much, we're sitting here talking about him being the guy that has real value as a pending UFA.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I guess there is an inherent risk in doing that. And, I mean, the chances are really low, but if something did happen and it blew up your chance to get something for the player, that would be there would be some serious blowback on that. I mean, to me, Villy is like, I had a lot of time for the way that he played. I wasn't really too fired up that he went out of the lineup. But again, like, he's gone at the end of the season. I mean, even if they said, hey, we want to re-sign you, he's like, yeah, thanks. I'm going to be looking for an opportunity elsewhere. Right. So, much like so much of this season right now, we're sort of looking, okay, let's get through tomorrow, see what can be salvaged, see what you can get in return for any of these pieces. I don't expect anything big. If that were going to happen, that's probably at the draft, like in the off season, and see if you can refill the cupboard of a few of these picks that have been blown out over the course of the last couple deadlines. This is right up. If you're with us right now, Connor just went through it, but Clean Lines presented by our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. The thing, Remis, is that Stan, in my opinion, for the most part, unless you're willing to move a player like Dylan DeMello and there's a legitimate offer for him, and my ears would be open to that. Niederreiter's injured. He's a player with one more year of term. He's there. I mean, this is why I don't put too much into it. I'm hoping I'm pleasantly surprised tomorrow, maybe with the price of a guy that I didn't think was really movable. The bottom line is, I mean, it just seems to be the worst case scenario in that all of the guys that are on these expiring contracts, with the exception of Stanley, have had seasons that is absolutely deep sixed, their value potentially around the league. And I include Luke Schenn in that, despite his leadership qualities and Stanley Cup winning pedigree that he brought to Winnipeg.
Yeah, you look at Gus Nyquist, I can't see anyone giving anything up for him. Cole Koepke, he's got a lot of speed, but I think there's a lot of similar type players out there. Maybe Morgan Barron's a guy who has some value under contract, low salary for next season. And Tanner Pearson, I mean, again, he hasn't really done a lot this season for the Winnipeg Jets. So I think they're in a real tough spot where, you want them to be sellers at the deadline, but who do they have that's really attractive to other teams? And again, you look at prospects, maybe a team would trade prospects to try to, or picks to help them out like they've done in the past. That's an offseason move, and we saw them do it, with Nate Schmidt and with Nino Niederreiter, with Nemesnikov, guys who have had term that they've traded for, but they've traded away the second and fourth for this year and next year. And those are, we just saw Utah trade away, 3 seconds for Uyghur. So they don't have picks. The prospects, they don't have really anyone pushing to be in the NHL. They're in a tough spot here, Huss. I'm not sure what they're going to do tomorrow, but they don't really have a lot of those assets that traditionally you're selling at the deadline.
Well, it's not an enviable position to be in. I mean, and that goes for the entire last 12 months. Like, it's crazy, man, when you think about it. What was it, like a year to the day? I think the Brock Nelson trade happened to Colorado on that Thursday night.
Yes.
So, and again, this gets into, and some people that are Chevy's biggest critics won't really want to, have this conversation. And frankly, it is what it is. But you can, in some markets, and Buffalo's a perfect example of what they just did to try to get Colton Parayko, and they got the Heisman. There are some serious roadblocks to making deals. And, I think the Jets were all in to try to get Brock Nelson last year. He decided on Colorado, and they had to pivot. And obviously, I mean, between those moves, the Schenn trade in particular, with where that second round pick is going to end up being this year, and then the offseason, I mean, it has been, for all the incredible heights of last season and the President's Trophy, all of that, it's sort of been paid back the other way through the last 12 months. And, we sit where we do right now heading into this game tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. There will be deals made. And the one thing, Connor, and I'll just get your thoughts on this, the fact of the matter is that all of a sudden it has gone from, it's just a buyer's market. Everyone's got all these players out there that everyone wants. The players that have moved, they have moved for, some significant return. So, I mean, just because we haven't had particular guys' names mentioned by LeBron or Drager or whatever, who knows? I mean, there is still a lot of intrigue for tomorrow because crazier things have happened than, a player or two that's on the Jets right now coming and actually getting a legitimate return that would help the team tomorrow.
Yeah, Huss, it's kind of crazy how the market went from a buyer's market because there's not that much demand or supply out there. And then now all of a sudden, 2 days later, it's a seller's market. It's like, well, maybe let the market develop and we'll decide then. Yeah, like I said earlier, second round picks are getting thrown around like candy right now by all of these teams. And look, Nick Waugh got traded for a first round pick today. He has less goals than Morgan Barron this year, less points than Morgan Barron this year, and is a more expensive player for an extra year. Like Morgan Barron has a better cap hit, is younger, faster, and scores more goals. So if Nick Waugh gets a 1, got to think Morgan Barron gets a pretty decent package, right? Like if we're playing the seller's market, we're playing the seller's market here. I know people like Morgan Barron, but like sometimes the price is the price, folks. And if Nick Waugh is getting moved for a 1, then yeah, I mean, you got to listen on players like that. And you asked Remo in the chat earlier, what would be a successful deadline? And obviously, I think everyone can kind of get on board with the moving of the UFAs, especially the ones like Shen and Nyquist. If there's any value on those guys, that's kind of the obvious thing. For me, what I'm hoping for in the next 24 hours is that the Winnipeg Jets get a little creative in the way that they sell, play into this seller's market. Players like Morgan Barron, who you might not have thought, and I'm not by any means trading Morgan Barron for something that's not valuable in return, but this market is one that benefits the Winnipeg Jets right now. And they do have valuable players up and down their lineup. You might look at the pending UFAs and say, there's no value there, but teams are looking for right shot defensemen. What about a Dylan DeMello with the emergence of Elias Salamonson and Salamonson probably being a regular next year and maybe even being in the Winnipeg Jets top 4? Like there are creative ways I think the Winnipeg Jets can create that supply that teams are looking for and teams are paying for right now because this market is one that benefits a team that's 28th or 27th in the NHL right now. So the next 24 hours are going to be intriguing to me. And if they just kind of tinker and don't really get creative, that might be something that I'm not a fan of when we get to 2:01 tomorrow.
You know what, Reem? Just listening to Connor lay out that argument that the value of a Morgan Barron might be beyond what we think about. And you mentioned, he's got his stats and his goals and points are more than Nick Roy. Stanley's more than both of those guys. And he's a 6'7" defenseman.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, that's why I like, as I said, I mean, and listen, as I said, I know if you just read Twitter in Jet circles, you'd think that this poll would be like 95% to 5. Look at what it is right now. It's 58-42. Like, not quite a pick 'em, but that is why I always say to people, social media and what you read is not real life. And the same thing with with a lot of our conversations the last couple of weeks. Oh man, I read social media. I think this is what it's far more nuanced, and the reality is far more in between the two extremes. But based on that, I do think that if Stanley's traded, I still think that there could be a first rounder. Now the question is where and from what team. But the one thing that I'll say right now is that the East is as fascinating and wide open as it's ever been. I was talking about this on the Lock Shop. I think of the team right now, 6 of the 8 teams that are in playoff spots today, Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, Boston, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders were all plus money to make the playoffs this year. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are in situations they did not expect them to be in. And I think they can also look at their respective divisions and potential path and go, you know what? Maybe this is a time where we kind of reconsider what we were planning on doing. Again, it is too bad that there wasn't a bit of term on Stanley's deal, like even another year. I mean, if he was an RFA, it would have been. But again, if that's the case, they probably aren't thinking about trading him. So, I mean, it's all part of it. But anyways, keep your comments coming in. We've got some great stuff on here. Connor, I know you'll be at the game tonight. We'll have post game on it, and then buckle up for a big one tomorrow, pal, because we're going to be getting going early and going over all of the deals that have happened, and frankly, maybe some like the Parayko to Buffalo deals that are fully reported as if they're done, with the caveat that they haven't talked to the player yet, who then says, oh yeah, by the way, I've got a no trade clause. My girlfriend is the Emo's Pizza girl here in St. Louis. I'm not leaving.
Exactly. And I always find stuff like that interesting. Like, so clearly I think the Sabres leaked that to apply pressure on Parayko to waive, or at least to get clarity, right? Like if Parayko is going to waive or not, the Sabres want to know so that they can make another move. They can go get, I just saw Rasmus Ristolainen, Kevin Weeks is tweeting, is a player that's generating some buzz. So maybe they pivot to a guy like that. But I always find that interesting. Yeah, back to Buffalo. Who knows? But I find that interesting, like the media game and who's leaking what information to try and apply pressure to different spots. So this is our Super Bowl, Huss. This is our Stanley Cup final tomorrow, trade deadline day for us media folk. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I love trade deadline day. I've loved some of the moves already, like Uyghur to Utah is a very fascinating one. Excited to see how that works out for the Mammoth. And yeah, this Winnipeg Jets team, I mean, Scott O'Neill said it could change tonight. Like, the roster related players sitting, he said that could change, I suppose. So he kind of left the door open. Do we end up seeing that? Do the players play? And what do the Winnipeg Jets do tomorrow? It's going to be a fascinating 24 hours, Huss. I can't wait.
Well, we'll be paying attention to who's out there in the warm-up skate today, whether anything does change. And then, again, folks, join the three of us and a cast of characters joining us throughout the 4-hour-plus show beginning at 11 a.m. tomorrow here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, we're going to connect with JP Vigier in just a minute. First, though, a big thanks to some of our sponsors, including our newest sponsors with Manitoba Building Trades and the Manitoba Federation of Labor.
Hey, Bob, you hearing the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Got a little chilly the last couple days when it is cold. Actually, anytime. If you're looking to go out for a great time, maybe get away from hockey, your sour taste about the Olympics, Uptown Alley, a great spot to do that. No place you'll have more fun than Uptown Alley with your gang, with 5 and 10 pin bowling, laser tag, a state-of-the-art arcade, and amazing food and beverage options. If you're just going out there to have a good time, or you want to plan a group or corporate event, best place for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults. And of course, if you want to do an event there, you basically just let them know your numbers, what activities you want to do, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and the friendly staff at Uptown will take care of all the rest. Find out more on booking your next event at Uptown Alley at 488-0000 or check them out online at uptownalley.ca. If you've got a move coming up into the spring and summer, holler at the gang over at Rolly's Transfer, a great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Rolly's is family-owned and operator for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. If you check out their website at rollys.com, top right corner, you'll click on Request an Estimate. Use that promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go, and their friendly staff will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they've been famous for now into their 7th decade. Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the moving game. Find out more today and plan ahead at rollys.com. And just before we bring in Brandon, got to shout out Dr. Terry and the great people over at St. Vital Dental Center. It's not the most glamorous thing or the thing you're looking most forward to, but I can tell you it's always nice seeing the great people at St. Vital Dental Center. And they've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans for all their dental needs, handling clients from 6 months to 99 plus with the full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. They do it all. Check them out online at stviteldental.ca. You can make an appointment online to pop by and see Dr. Terry and his great staff. New spot, 167 St. Anne's Road, convenient free parking right behind the building. Big thanks for the support from the St. Vital Dental Center. All right, let's bring in our pal JP Vigier for his thoughts on the latest with the local hockey club heading into the deadline. Vij, what's going on? How you been?
Yeah, we've been good. Enjoying some warmer-ish weather. So I'm not freezing in the rink right now, so we're okay.
Well, we're into March. We got the trade deadline this week, and
Excitement.
unfortunately for I would imagine the team as well as certainly the fan base we're hearing with such a miserable season compared to what expectations are. There are a lot of people that looking forward to the nicer weather and looking forward to the end of the year. We'll get into the big picture in a minute, but let me lean on you for your time back in the NHL. What is it like around the room of a team 48 hours before the trade deadline?
Well, one, it depends what your team is. Are you a playoff contender or are you a playoff pretender? Right? The way different atmospheres.
Let's go with the latter first.
Yeah. So if you're a pretender, it's pins and needles. I'm moving. Is it me? Is it somebody else? Fortunately or unfortunately, I knew very often I wasn't moving. Right. So the need for an old fourth line guy wasn't as high in demand as what you're seeing now. So I think pins and needles for the guys that know expiring contracts. The team needs to retool. You get the business side of it after being there for so long. Who is the person or players moving? What's the effect on them and their family? And I think that's an important factor. Is not just the player who's got to load up his suitcase and get his way to the airport. It's what's the rest of the family doing at that moment, if they have family, wife, kids, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the pretender side. The contender side, you're pumped, right? You're like, oh, who can we add? Is Wayne Gretzky coming in to help us, right? Who's the guy coming in that's going to reinforce, to give us an extra boost of energy and excitement? So that contender atmosphere is like, oh man, how big are they going to swing? Are they going to nibble? And you're just how much? And from the player perspective, and if they bring in someone real big, how's that going to affect my ice time going down the stretch?
Well, I was going to get to that because there is the other side of the coin, really, on both sides. I mean, for the contender, you obviously, if you don't have trade protection or whatnot, you do have to worry that, like, what if they really go for a big fish and I'm the guy that's going the other way? And to the other side of things, I would have to imagine that if you were on a team that was definitely not being in the playoffs and you're on an expiring contract, the possibility of getting moved for the final 6 weeks of the season to give a chance to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs and maybe to boost your value after a down season might be pretty attractive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different scenarios, right? If you're on a contending team, they bring in a big fish. Does that cut your ice time out? And how does that affect your player status within the dressing room, right? In your contract years, on the other side, are you the guy they move out? And that's not always a bad thing if you're moved out, because now you're going to a place where maybe you get an opportunity to play more, to further value and extend your career to be more than what it might be on this team. So there's pluses and minuses to all of this. And there's just so many different scenarios, so many different personalities, right? Like, do you move this guy and he goes there and wow, he overachieves or underachieves with that team for the 6 weeks, that increases or decreases his value? So many different scenarios to look at and roll the dice, because we've seen all of them.
I will say this, and regardless of what situation you're in, certainly for fans, certainly for the media, this is a really fun time. You're looking at, what can your team do to move closer to your goal? And, the short-term goal might be to make the playoffs. If you're out of the playoffs, the short-term goal might be to, get some assets. For instance, in the Jets situation, get some assets for guys that aren't going to be with you next year, to help maybe, make up for some of the swings that you've taken in the past. The bottom line is, though, and if you look especially for aggressive moves, as much as we love them and everyone's giving them big thumbs up when they happen in real time, there's often some big time mistakes that you pay the price for in a big, big way down the road after the fact. And I mean, the Jets are in such a, and I'll get your just thoughts on the big picture of the Jets right now. But I think of where they were a year ago, which is crazy to think. I mean, challenging and eventually winning the President's Trophy. And obviously having a difficult time maybe getting some of their first choices due to trade protection. That is what it is in the NHL. And there's not anything that Winnipeg can do about it at this point. But you trade a second and a fourth to bring in a Luke Schenn. And now you have a player like Luke Schenn on the roster that is available. It's almost for a general manager. The expectation is that you will be able to do the same thing in reverse on the other side. And depending on scenarios, sometimes that's easier said than done.
Yeah. Last year's market is not this year's market, right? So you might have given up 3 first-round picks for a player last year. You might only get a second for them this year, right? The market doesn't stay the same year to year. One, how has the player played in that year? Have they increased their own value? Have they decreased their own value? Have they been hurt the whole time? And 2, how many buyers or sellers are out there? We still seem to be wondering who are all the buyers and sellers. We have a pretty good idea, but I've heard that it's a buyer's market out there because there's lots of players looking to be sold. So if that's the case, what's the value of a player is way different than last year, where there didn't seem to be a lot of sellers last year till the last minute. So we're getting close to those last minutes. And I think you look at that from the business perspective of things. I don't think you can go and say, well, last year we gave up X and Y for player Z. We're going to get X and Y back, and we're just going to call it even Stevens. I don't think the market ever works that way. Coaches or general managers, don't care what you paid for, your car last year. They want your car. They're not paying you what you paid last year because there's some extra miles on it.
There's an interesting deal earlier this morning. The Leafs, and this is why I think we were kind of sold that this was just a real buyer's market. And now we're sort of seeing some of the prices that are paid for particular players. And then you can kind of think, well, maybe that's not the case. So the Leafs get a 2027 first rounder, top 10 protected from the Avalanche, and a 5th rounder this year from Colorado for Nick Roy. I will say this, good bit of business for Toronto, to make something like that happen. And again, it's top 10 protected. So, I mean, this isn't going to be, and no one expects Colorado to be picking the top 10 anyways, but I guess you want to throw that in. But it doesn't take much for the market to shift a little bit. And especially, as we've seen, we'll find out how things work out with Parayko and a couple of these other guys that have basically been traded without the ability to trade them, and then it's put on their shoulders. I mean, things can change. Let me ask you about that, though, from a former player standpoint. And listen, I've got an issue with the amount of no moves and no trades that are out there, and I think it's really damaging to the game and the league overall. But I mean, what do you make when?
I'm going to argue with Huss on that, because I'm a player, right? Or I'm an ex-player. I still think I'm a player, but for me, the biggest hiccup that was in hockey forever was the uncertainty of movement, right? I know it's great for the fans and the trades and for the excitement of hockey, but from a player's perspective, having a little bit of certainty of what my life is going to look like is great, because otherwise I lived in a suitcase for 15 years, right? There's not a lot of...
Yeah, and you were lucky to do that. You were in the NHL.
Yeah, but I'm a player. If I could have said, oh, man, I can limit to the 3 places I'm not going or I'm going to, hey, hats off. That player has earned that because he's an exceptional player. And I get it.
I guess I'll push back just on the other. And listen, for sure. I mean, hey, if you can get it, get it. I mean, it's just like, hey, I'd love to be paid more. Well, no kidding. I mean, I want that. But I mean, all of the other leagues somehow, have not been, stuffed into a locker, frankly, by the agents and whatnot. And
having the NBA players don't control anything on a trade?
Well, they do, but they don't. Yes and no. It's not like the NHL. I think the amount of actual no trades in the NBA, you might be able to count it on one hand. I mean, guys are getting traded 5-6 times in a year. But again, they're making 30 sheets a season. So it
Right.
sort of goes in with it. I mean, it's just that unlike I guess my point is that it is the least fair league when it comes to player movement, and it's not close when it comes to the NFL, Major League Baseball, although baseball's a little different just because of the way that it's structured without a cap, and the NBA, in that, you have teams that are more than happy to give out no moves, but the teams that are paying the price is sort of that bottom tier of teams, where it be size, weather, being in Canada, that handcuffs them. Like teams like the Winnipeg Jets are in a much more difficult situation, not because of deals that they've made, but because of what's been given out elsewhere. Like I would love, and I'm not sure, how this would come about, but it would be, because I know that at a certain point, once you sign deals, there's signed deals. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But if the league could come together and say, and I don't know whether this would even be a CBA thing or just a league mandate that says, teams can only have 2 of these or only have 3 of these.
Yeah.
And then at that point, all the guys that aren't the superstar players that have somehow got these things would be more up for grabs, or just, you get grandfathered in and moving forward. That's what you're dealing with. And guess what? If you've already got 3 guys that have your modified no moves or no trades, sorry, when you're signing guys, you can't do that again. And if you're trading for a guy, it becomes off the books.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, but problem we're going to see is the general managers are going to find a way to circumvent situations again. Right? That's what they do. God bless them. They're intelligent people. If salary cap, they worked around it, right? They're working around everything. There's always going to be a way to work around something, right? And that's what makes it attractive. At that time, it becomes a hot commodity. Everybody has to do it, or you don't get any players, and the next problem persists and go on. So now you're going to have 2. So can you trade no movement clauses after? Well, I have a player. I don't want to trade him. I want you to take his no movement clause. I'll give you a 4th round pick. So now I get that extra no movement clause. What's the value? Like, that's very, I'm reaching on things, but how.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. And I mean, that would be something on the league. Anyways, I just bring that up right now because it is, listen, it's been very frustrating from a Winnipeg standpoint in years past. I mean, I think about what Buffalo's dealing with right now, having made a deal, and then, you're waiting for a day at a time when you need to be pivoting somewhere else if this deal isn't going to happen with the business, like what's happened with.
That's absolutely fair. And I think the part of the issue is social media has gotten so good and on top of things, right? Like how many of this stuff happened when social media wasn't there that we just, slid under the sheets that no one knew about, but the general managers, maybe a few players, right? But now you're hearing it like it's thought about it. It's in social media. It's already out there. Or this trade's done. This trade's done. Well, it hasn't even been presented to Parenko. And he needs time. What's his family obligation, right? And so on and so on. So I think social media plays a big part of that. And God bless, it's exciting. I won't lie. I'm grabbing coffee this morning at 6:45. What's the first thing I do? Oh, baby, what happened last night? Oh, it's going to be a good one. Oh, nothing.
Yeah, listen, and Parenko, he is one of those guys that, has been Mr. St. Louis. He's won a cup there. He's done everything. I think I saw he's dating the Emo's Pizza girl, which is like the iconic St. Louis. He's so tied in there that, moving to Buffalo with 3 years left on his deal is a big decision. So, I get all that. But it does make things a lot more difficult when you're trying to improve your team. Let's bring it back to the peg. Let's bring it back to the peg and the Jets right now.
Hey, sure.
Just your thoughts on where this team is at right now. And what can be salvaged over the course of these next 48 hours by any moves that are realistic or possible for the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, I think obviously, I don't know what the percentage is for them making the playoffs. It's 3, 4, 5, 2. I have no idea. It's not
the sale, JP.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you're looking at some sort of retool. You have your core. I think right now you have to prove to your fans and your core players that you're not giving up. You're looking to retool. I think of the Boston Bruins. when they threw in the towel a couple of years ago, they got a bunch of assets. They turned around and made those assets into players really quickly, and they're back in the playoffs and a very good team again. And I think that's the model or the template that the Winnipeg Jets are going to try to do, is kind of, move some things around, have some things go here and there, recoup some assets, turn around. Can you trade some of those assets in the offseason? Give a few young guys an opportunity to get their feet wet during the last chunk of the season to see, if they can get 15, 20 games in, can they be even more ready next year at training camp to push for a spot? Because, the Jets need a little bit of youth in their lineup, some Moose guys coming in to play some good minutes and whatnot. So I think you're looking at kind of a tweak around the outside, because you can't totally give up. Because if you totally give up, what do Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, Connor Hellebuck, and company think? Like, we're not just throwing in the flags here and giving up forever. You have to show to those guys as well that this is not going to be a 5, 6, 7 year rebuild, because then you're into Toronto's market, and who knows what guys you're able to keep after that. And you want to show those guys that you can keep them while fixing on the fly, I guess, is what you would be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's sort of like two sets of Jets. There's the group of Hellebuck, Scheifele, Connor, and Josh Morrissey and Gabe Vilardi that are signed to the long-term deals that are your most important players. And then there's basically everybody else. And I mean, the message to those guys is, you know what, guys? You blew it this year. I mean, this was a great opportunity. We didn't get it done as a team. And now we, moving forward, have to make decisions that will put us in a better spot next year to not be where we are right now. And I would have to think that there would be buy-in from those players. Like, listen, none of these guys are dumb. They know exactly what the situation is. And we've seen it at times in the way that the team's been playing, to be perfectly honest, even after this break. I mean, I know they pulled that one out of a hat in the third period against the Blackhawks, but I mean, if anyone watched the first 50 minutes of that hockey game and didn't see a team that knew that it wasn't happening this year, I don't know what game you were watching. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's
true, right? Like, I think you got to show those guys yes, we're going to, tweaks, trades, whatever. But I think you're also looking at, hey, what's the picture? Can we mold this picture real quickly and get going again on the right track of the hill?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the one thing that might shake things up with those guys, and this would be more in the offseason, if all of a sudden they see a much bigger move, a more tide-shifting one, where one of those guys that I mentioned was being talked to about taking care of their no-move contract, and, would you be open to go somewhere else? And then you're really shifting the team. And when that happens with one of those guys, what's the reaction from the other? And I'm not suggesting that's happening, but
I think that's a hard thing to do, right? Like,
absolutely, especially with the commitment those guys have made to here.
Yeah, like, those guys have been the backbone of your team for however long, so you're looking at no move clause, substantial salary, yada, yada, yada. Most of these guys have now established families within Winnipeg, right? Most of these guys now have kids and whatnot. So it's not just as easy as pick up and go. And you're kind of committed to those guys, because part of the hardship of the Winnipeg Jets has been retaining and keeping their guys. And they've done, they've kept this core together. So now, how much do you give up on it and move, or do you go for a big swing? It'll be interesting. I think there's some teams that are so hungry out there. Like, we saw what Utah did. I mean, they give up 3 seconds and 2 players for Vigier. Like, did the Jets pull up just something out of left field where you're like, whoo, that just restocked the cupboard in a hurry?
Yeah, well, listen, I think there'd be a lot of people that would be here for that. And listen, I mean, to be frank, Vigier's had a really rough season. I mean, he's the green jacket leader right now. I think he's minus 35. And
yeah, but
I mean,
is that because of where he's playing?
Well, I mean, listen, I've watched some Calgary this year, but from talking to guys that are with the team, like, he had a really rough first half of the season. And I mean, that happens with players. And I mean, he was also a guy that came into this season thinking that he would be in the mix potentially for Team Canada. And then when that didn't happen up until Christmas, things sort of fell off. And hey, listen, good on them. I mean, they're in a very clear situation with what Calgary is. They're sellers. They're looking to build up. That is a rebuild right now. They're looking ahead to their new arena in a couple years and looking to start over. I mean, Jets are still obviously holding on with what they've invested in these players that are the sort of the core that they're not going to quit give up, which brings me to another question. Because, I mean, right now, there is the obvious incentive maybe not to win as many games as you might be possible. Like, does that ever... Can you have those conversations with guys about maybe sitting them down, sitting them out? Hey, you know what, Josh, you've been out for a bit. We don't want to take any chances. Why are we even rushing you back? You know what? Give it another couple weeks. I mean, like, does that ever happen with players?
The culture of the dressing room, if they find out that you're, tanking and you want them to sit, if you go to...
Well, it's not necessarily tanking, but I mean, listen, guys, we're out of the playoffs. We're getting rid of a few of these guys. We were going to bring in a bunch of young players. We're going to let them play. We're going to see how things go. Hopefully we actually get something out of these final 20 games of the season, as opposed to just playing till the end, looking at the standings every day and lamenting what happened in the first half of the season. Like, for guys that are committed to the team, would there not be because I obviously never been in a conversation.
No chance, Huss.
They just want to win every night and that's it.
The pride of the athlete, right? Like, if you ask me to sit and I'm healthy and I can play, if you say, I had a coach ask me, "Are you ready to play tomorrow?" It wasn't even a hesitation. We were out of the playoffs. Yep, I was banged up. But if I don't play, the pride in myself, the pride in the locker room, like if someone says, "You're right, I don't really feel like playing tonight," play someone else. You want to play with that guy next year?
Yeah.
You want that guy in the lineup when you're retooling? What's your dressing room look like now with, well, he quit on us last year. What's to say he's not going to quit on us again this year? That's a no-go. I really think that's a no-go conversation. Unless
I think you're right. I think you're right. And to be honest, that's why I don't think those conversations ever really have, unless you're talking about potentially an injury. Like, guys, if this was
playing on a half a leg because you're trying to grind it out, totally okay. You're beyond banged up here. This is not even a conversation. The coach is deciding to sit you because the trainer said this could get really bad and you might even miss the start of next season. But if you're able to play, it's not even a conversation. Like, how do you look a player in the face and say, "No, I don't want you to play because we want to tank it"?
Well, I mean, not as much tank. I mean, that you can take that, like, maybe that is what comes of it. But I guess it's safe to say that the veteran players aren't sitting here looking to just give young guys opportunities because they're young. They expect the head coach to be putting out the best lineup every night so that they can win a hockey game.
Yeah, and within reason. Like, do we have a couple Moose guys that come up and play a few games during the last stretch of the season? Probably going to happen, right? Welcome to hockey. We're not in a playoff. We got to get our young guys in. But how do they manipulate the contracts they have to allow to have space, bring guys in to get them through, to give Coach Scott Arniel a quick look? That kind of works with this guy. If we can get a piece here and set up. You look at the Calgary Flames, they picked up 3 seconds the other day. What kind of offer sheet can they put out there if they want to retool real quick?
Yeah, well, I mean, just as far as bringing the young guys up and playing and figuring out the roster to allow that to happen, as far as I'm concerned, that should be starting on Saturday night. I mean, you get through Friday, you see who you're able to get something for. And then we take it from there. But it will be an interesting couple days, in and around the league. Of course, we'll be doing the extended show starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow. So, Vij, if you're jumping back to the office on the ice, you can just fire it up, and we'll be going right through.
Having one ear pod while I'm cutting the ice up.
Hey, buddy, always great having you on the show. You have a great one, and we'll catch up soon in the next few weeks.
Sounds good. Have a great day, guys.
All right, good stuff with our pal JP Vigier. Hey, gang, tonight at midnight is the deadline for the early bird prizes for the St. B Mega Million Choices.ca lottery. in support of the St. Boniface Hospital and all of the incredible and important research they do. If you have not gotten your ticket yet, get it before midnight tonight, so you are in for over $280,000 worth of early bird prizes. 2 winners will have the choice of either a 26 Chevy Silverado EV Trail Boss or a 26 Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum, both valued at over $115K, or $100,000 cash tax-free. There'll also be 25 winners of $1,000 or an Apple iPhone 17 Pro or a Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus. But you have to get your tickets tonight. Of course, every ticket will also be eligible for the amazing grand prizes, 5 dream home packages of over $1.5 million value, or the grand prize in cash, $1.25 million Canadian, tax-free in your pocket. And again, all in support of the St. Boniface Hospital. So please, get online, stbmegamillionchoices.ca. Get your tickets online, or if you'd prefer, pop by your local Red River Co-op or London Drugs location and grab those tickets before close tonight, so you're in for the early bird draw. All right, Brandon Rewucki coming up next on WST. I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their wonderful support of WST. Won't be too long before we're back at Princess Auto Stadium cheering on the Bombers. In the meantime, Princess Auto, serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The snowmobile season continues to be an amazing one. A little more snow last night, and a lot of people will be hitting the trails on the weekend. Our pals at Chud's Power Sports are dominating the snowmobile season, and right now they have just started the Polaris 2027 Snow Check program up at Chud's in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. It's for pre-ordering the new snowmobile models for next year. If you pre-order, you get the best deal of the year on the new models, plus an extra 2-year warranty for a total of 3 years instead of just the normal 1 year, $250 in free accessories, and the golden ticket, which will give them $1,000 off the 2028 Snow Check if they want to trade up to 27. It runs now until March 13th. The header is running on the website at chudspowersports.com. So get on over to that, and while you're at it, you can start thinking about spring with bikes and ATVs and RVs, because Chud's has it all. The power sports superstore in Manitoba for over 80 years. Got to thank Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Continue to get just always getting great comments from our listeners and customers that have found Manitoba Battery through WST. Shopping local, beating the pants off the big box stores and really anywhere else you're going to get batteries. And of course, the best in service. They'll put it in for you. They'll give you a free battery test if you're wondering if you need a new one. And right now, you want to get through this winter for car and truck batteries. But as we get into boats and ATVs and, of course, sleds, Manitoba Battery has it all. 2 Winnipeg locations, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive out on the south side. And, of course, you can also order online. They do deliver anywhere inside the perimeter of the city of Winnipeg. You can order online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, it's time to bring in Brandon Rewucki for his thoughts on the upcoming trade deadline. And this segment is a presentation of GMC. And Truck Month is on now at GMC. If you want something reliable, tough, and ready for whatever the schedule throws at you, that's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell. And it can be yours for 0% financing for 72 months with the factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8. This is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get to your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Brandon Rewucki, we are about 24 hours away from the deadline. Lots going on around the league, not so much here in Winnipeg. How are you doing?
Doing good. It's the calm. We're in the eye of the storm, I think. Although the Nick Waugh trade, that's a pretty that's a pretty good gust of wind. But I'm jacked. I'm ready to go.
Let's first off, and we'll focus in on the Jets and what can maybe be salvaged tomorrow, best case scenario. But it did seem, and it was reported, there hadn't been much happening. It's a real buyer's market. And then we've seen some pretty significant prices paid for a few players over the last of the 24 hours. I mean, what do you make of what we've seen offered up and given in deals, particularly with this Raw trade that's going to get a first rounder from Colorado to the Leafs?
I wondered if the whole buyer's market thing was a theory sent out by the buyer's market, being like, "Oh God, please, the prices are crazy and we need guys." It's not. Like, it's clearly a seller's market, and I think it's just the fact that, I mean, it's just the landscape of the NHL this season. The West, you have really the 3 to 4 big dogs, but out in the East, there's probably 6 teams, maybe even more, that are looking at the rest of the conference going, we've got a legit chance at that this year. Whether it's true or not, I think there's going to be a large chunk of teams that feel that way. And so, I think there's going to be a decent amount of activity over the next, I guess, 27 hours. Because I really look at the teams in the Atlantic, Huss, and they've, the Buffalo one, we'll see what happens there, but they might not be done even if the Parayko deal does go through. But you've got Tampa, Boston, Detroit, Montreal, Buffalo, all teams with varying levels of, we got a chance at this thing. And once one of them makes the move, I think the dominoes are going to start to fall. I think it's going to be a pretty, I guess from a league-wide perspective, a pretty exciting next 27 hours.
Well, especially in the East. It's just so wide open. I mean, when you have teams like the Panthers, the Devils, the Leafs, likely the Capitals, the Senators, were all there last year that are out, and like new teams that have been dying for a chance to get into the playoffs. Buffalo, the Red Wings. Nobody had Pittsburgh in this situation this year. A lot of people thought the Islanders wouldn't be there. Montreal and Boston. Every one of those teams, I think, feels like, okay, wait a second. We are further than we maybe thought we would be. Or in a case like Buffalo, we've been waiting for 14 years to get to this point. Let's make the most of it and give ourselves the best chance to, to make our owners some money with a few extra playoff dates, to win a round, to, dare I say it, challenge to get to the Cup final with really only 2 established teams in Tampa and Carolina right now that are in the mix.
That's exactly it. And you look at them, Tampa's good. They are, I think, the clear favorite, rightfully so. They're also not invincible like they were 5 years, 5-6 years ago, however long it's been. And then Carolina has shown they're a consistent contender, but they can't get over the hump. So the 2 teams in everybody else's way, it's, again, whether they're right or wrong, I can understand being in that market going, we can do this. Like, we can legitimately do this. And with Florida being presumably out of the mix right now, I really, really think we're going to see some, I don't know if it's necessarily panic moves, Huss. We're going to see a little bit of urgency, though. And I especially look at a team like Detroit. I know Buffalo's going to make a big move. But I don't know if it was last deadline or 2 deadlines ago, Stevie Y got called out by his captain for not helping the team. I don't even necessarily disagree with what Stevie Y did, but I think there is an added element of pressure there that, you know what, whether we think we're a Cup contender or not, we have to give this team a bit of a boost. So I think we're in for a bit of a doozy here. And again, you see some of the names like Nick Waugh and Jason Dickinson, for all of their, good players. And I know there's extenuating circumstance. First round picks for both of those guys, like, the prices are loco. So you're a team outside of the playoff picture. Is there one in Central Canada that fits that mold, Huss? I don't know. Maybe it's an opportunity to ship off some pieces and grab some draft capital or prospects at any other assets.
Well, I mean, obviously we're referring to the Jets here in this situation. And I mean, I have, for the last few weeks, to be honest, not really gotten my hopes up that there's going to be some, frankly, big returns for the guys. And maybe I've just watched too much of this team this year. But I mean, of the players that came in the offseason on one-year deals that have expiring contracts, like, I honestly have a hard time making the argument that there is value in any of those players elsewhere. I mean, Gustav Nyquist, I mean, I don't think we even need to address that one. Like, Luke Schenn, I know, has this reputation. He's a Stanley Cup winner. He's a big, tough guy. Dude, he's been like a step or two behind all year long. The results have been brutal. Like, I don't know. Me personally, I have a hard time thinking that a legitimate cup contending team is going to be like, oh, that's a guy. No, listen, maybe you want to bring him in as your 8th defenseman, and if something happens in a punch, you can go in and play him for 6 or 7 minutes, maybe. But what's that worth?
Yeah,
so
I mean, that's fair, and they're not going to get huge pieces back for Stanley, obviously being the one, and even then we can get into what that price might look like. But and especially with the trades last deadline that the Jets made, losing, but like you look at the Vigier trade to Utah, they're 3 second-round picks, all that. Like, they didn't give up a premium asset, really. So what this is about is, sure, Luke Schenn's not going to get you anywhere near what you gave up last deadline. But maybe you get a team that missed out on some of the other guys, and it's a 3rd or a 4th-round pick. And then maybe this guy gets you another 3rd or a 4th-round pick. And then all of a sudden, you've got at least a little bit to work with, and you're not as depleted as you were going into this season. So it's not. I think for Chevy, this deadline, it's not necessarily how do I go about this and hit 2 home runs in the bottom of the 9th, but a bunch of singles and maybe a double can still bring some runners home, if you know what I mean. And that's, you got to make do with what you have here. And I think that's the situation they put themselves in. But you're not going to hit a home run, but also let's not strike out 3 times swinging. I think that's how the Jets need to approach the next couple of days.
It's funny that we said before, oh, it's just a buyer's market. And I think that was like a GM psyop, if you will, because Pierre LeBrun earlier today tweeted out, as one team exec said to me this morning, it's definitely a seller's market right now. Prices are sky high for the buyers, not an overabundance of players available either. I guess at the end of the day, like, to me, what I think would be, I guess, a somewhat successful deadline is if you can, move a Pearson, move a Nyquist, or move a Schenn. I mean, if there's a taker for Nyquist, do it. If not, I would be waiving him on Saturday, and I would be opening up that spot for someone else. Like, I mean, I'm now looking at these final 20 games as an opportunity to bring some guys up from the Moose, or potentially if you're trading a player and getting a prospect that hasn't fit in somewhere else, give them a chance to get their feet wet here in Winnipeg and find out a bit more. I mean, to me, that is, I think, a realistic win, and I use quotations considering the situation. But considering what we're hearing right now, I mean, is there another tier of player of the Winnipeg Jets that is not Connor Hellebuck, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Gabriel Velarde, Josh Morrissey, that all of a sudden could be in play in your mind because of what teams seemingly are willing to pay right now?
Dylan DeMello for sure. You've had Vigier go. We'll see what happens with Parayko. But like I mentioned, I mean, pretty much the whole Atlantic, it seems like, is looking for a right shot defenseman. I would say it's a certainty, close to it at least, that Ristolainen gets moved as well. And so eventually those teams are going to miss out on, well, at least one of those teams is going to miss out on their targets there. And obviously DeMello doesn't have the size a lot of teams covet going into the playoffs, but right shot defenseman has shown he can play on the top pair and hold his own. There's still going to be a decent amount of value, I think, involved with him there. And so I I totally agree with your assessment of what the Jets need to do in terms of setting themselves up post deadline. But this could be another situation where, if a trade worked out and Dylan DeMello was moved out, maybe Salamonson gets a bit of a trial period on the top pair whenever Morrissey comes back. And let's see what we got here. And if we're not much worse off, this sets us up well to potentially try to reload in the offseason, knowing that we've got this and this position filled and this one isn't. So to me, DeMello's the big one there. I just don't know about Perfetti in terms of is now the right time to do it, because we know he's getting better, but the season overall has been a bit of a disappointment for him. That to me might be something you address more in the offseason. But I think we're seeing so many defensemen get moved for such big prices here that Dylan DeMello could be a fallback option for one of the East contenders.
No, I'm with you as well. And listen, this isn't to slag DeMello, because I think he's been a great member of the team. And I mean, if you would have told me when they acquired him that he would have played multiple seasons on that top pairing with pretty good results, I mean, that's an example of a trade that really did work out. They signed the guy and he stayed there with Josh for a long time. I do think, though, when you look at other top pairings around the league, and I think if you want to get the most out of Josh Morrissey long-term and have him excited about the prospect of staying here with this group at the end of the 2 years remaining on his contract, an upgrade in that defense partner for a real legitimate number one pairing, along with one of the best in the league, is something that would be in the Jets' best, the best intents. Now, I mean, it's easier said than done just to go and find that player. And obviously we're seeing right now with what the prices are being paid, we know that free agency isn't usually an option for the Winnipeg Jets to get the top guys on there. So you really do need to find it in a young player. And listen, I've been really impressed with Elias. And while he hasn't put up a lot of points, if he can be steady, moving the puck well, playing good defensively, I mean, I think there is a scenario that he's a very nice fit with Josh Morrissey on a long-term basis, and that is something that I think we would definitely like to see. So let's get to Stanley. Considering what we've seen paid for. Now, again, it's important to note a guy like Vigier, he's got 3 years left on his contract, so we're not talking about Stanley as an RFA. We're not talking about him as 2 years left. We're talking about 20 games and a playoff run and the first opportunity to sign him long-term. I had thought for a long time that if San Jose was a realistic playoff team, like that's a team that made so much sense for a guy like Stan with how old he is. They've got 2 defensemen signed next year. I know. They just simply don't have anything committed to next season. That would be a guy that would, he's had a great season. He's 27 years old. I mean, kind of fits perfectly with where that team is right now. But considering he is a UFA, I can't imagine that there'll be a sign and trade happening, based on this. So if they do move on from Stan, we'll put it this way. What price would make sense for the Winnipeg Jets?
So I would say, it's funny because I do think San Jose is a bit of a dark horse team. With them, though, I think the most you're getting is a second round pick, because if they miss the playoffs, it is closer to that first round range. It's not the second round pick that's 62nd overall, right? So I think San Jose specifically second. I've said this. I said it last week. I'm sticking with it. I think realistic best case scenario is second round pick with conditions on it that if the team goes to either the conference final or the Stanley Cup final, it turns into a first. I think that's realistically the best case scenario, because he's got pros and cons. You're right. Pending UFA, set up to be a rental. But the big pro for him is, one, he's playing really well, but two, his cap hit is realistically nothing when it comes to fitting it in at the trade deadline. I think there's, we talked about some of those names. I think there's going to be players that are higher up on the pecking order. And so when it comes to the next tier, I think Stanley fits there. It could be a first round pick. I'm really not banking on it, but I think if it was either conditional second rounder or prospect equivalent of that, I think that's a trade that you'd look at as a Jet fan and say this was a pretty good outcome for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I would still be underwhelmed if it was a second. Now, if it was a second and maybe another player or a prospect, a guy that hasn't worked out in an organization, you come in, it's essentially like an additional lottery ticket of a guy that's just a little bit more advanced as opposed to you calling his name in at the draft. Works. And I mean, listen, they've had a lot of pro scouting meetings. Those are, we don't talk about them a lot, but that sort of thing is so important. I mean, every year you see a player or two, we're like, who the hell is this guy? How did this team get him? Oh, well, they went and got him at the deadline and he was the guy they threw in. Or, you know, they traded a second round pick for this guy and no one really knew what it was. Well, now we know why they did it. And to me, I think there's a lot of pressure on there as well. A little earlier today, Elliot tweeted out that Colton Parayko has said thanks, but no thanks. And he is not going to the Buffalo Sabres. What do you think that does to Buffalo with just over 24 hours heading into the deadline?
It's a very interesting situation they put themselves in, because that was a big ass package, man. Like, so you've kind of highlighted to the rest of the NHL, you know, there's no playing coy anymore. If you're Jarmo Kekalainen, it's like, yeah, we're not all in, but 98%.
Pretty damn close.
We're 98% in right now. So I'm sure it doesn't help his bargaining position. And I get Buffalo has to make a move. Like, from a optics perspective, it still sounds weird to say this. They can legitimately make a run to the conference final. Like, they're, you know, like we talked about, Tampa is going to be the big boogeyman, especially out in the Atlantic, but this is a long time they've been playing exceptional hockey. And if they get a Montreal or a Detroit or Boston, whoever it is, round one, like, they will feel good about themselves there. You get into round two, you know what, we'll see what happens. So listen, if they can get through round two, why not go all the way? At that point, exactly. Their round two matchup against Tampa, presumably, you know, that they're, you know, in the 2-3 matchup in that division, you know, if they somehow get hot and find a way to win that series, I mean, Carolina, assuming that they come out, this would be Carolina's final chance to finally get over the hump, not seeing Tampa or Florida in that final of the series. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing I'll say with Buffalo is I think going after Parayko highlights what they wanted, even Robert Thomas to a degree, is that they're willing to spend big, but it's got to be term attached to it. And I think that makes sense for a team like that. Like, you know, be aggressive for sure, but don't be stupid and reckless in that we're going to pay these prices for a guy that might be out the door in a couple of weeks. But it also underlines the difficulties of certain markets where, you know what, you do everything right from their perspective. We made an aggressive offer. It's fair. It fills a need. Guy says no. And there's not really a ton you can do about that. So I think there's some move coming for Buffalo. I just don't know where it's going to come from and who it is, but I imagine it's going to be a player with term. And I mean, they've got so many first round picks, they've got so many prospects, all that it's basically like, name your price, but let us know that he wants to come here first before we announce something publicly.
I was talking to JP Vigier earlier, and of course, Vig has the player's perspective and loves the no moves and no trades and what that affords the players. I mean, my side was that it really eliminates, you know, first of all, it kind of sets a bit of an unfair balance in the league. And obviously, as a Winnipeg guy, I would say that because they're often on most of those no trade lists. But it would be excellent if the league found a way, and I'm sure that, you know, it's not going to be bargained in. And you can't say that these are illegal, but, you know, a cap on the amount. Like, every team can have 2 or every team can have 3. And you know what? If you trade for a guy and you already have your 3, then all of a sudden that guy doesn't have one anymore. Like, some middle ground. So, I mean, because you look at a team like Edmonton, I mean, I don't know what the hell they're doing, and they've made their own bed. But, I mean, every guy on that team, like even Mangiapane, who they had to waive and send to the minors, had a full no trade.
Yeah. It's gotten out of hand, and I think honestly, I think the NHL made a big error not addressing that in the most recent bargaining agreement, because I think they have a really strong case. It's like, look, you guys have guaranteed contracts. which other sports do, the NFL doesn't. And on top of it, you're going to completely restrict any player movement. And whether you from an NHL perspective, and give Major League Baseball a ton of credit before they lock their players out. They correctly understood some of the issues with their game, and they made changes to make it more entertaining, because that's what it is. It's an entertainment product, and limiting the movement of players within your league drastically reduces some of that. There's a lot of markets out there that can feel hopeless, whether it's varying stages of their competitive cycle or the location that they find themselves in. I think it's perfectly reasonable and valid, and maybe they would have to give up a sweetener to convince players about this. But again, it's look, you guys have guaranteed contracts, but there is going to be a cap on the number of players that have these. And I think that's a pretty fair compromise. I don't think it's ever going to happen, so it sucks. But it's just, so many other leagues have so many fascinating trades, and you can reshape your roster at an off season, and it provides excitement year round. And the NHL, it's really deadline day, draft, July 1. And that's it. And then they go quiet for months. I just don't think it's the right way to, when you want to try to bump up your stature in North America, I think there's an opportunity here to make just the whole NHL calendar a lot more exciting.
No, with you on that. Well, we will hopefully have an exciting day tomorrow, both for the league and certainly a lot of intrigue as to what the Jets might be able to salvage out of a lost season tomorrow at the trade deadline. And we'll be talking about it with an extended show starting at 11 a.m. here on Winnipeg Sports Talk right through the final buzzer until after 3 p.m. Brandon, great stuff as always, man. Enjoy the festivities tomorrow. We'll catch up soon.
That was good. You too. We'll talk soon.
All right, good stuff with Brandon. Man, tomorrow is going to be fun. We are working on a banger of a 4-hour show tomorrow. Don't forget, we're starting at 11 a.m. live on YouTube, and we will run right through the deadline to 3 or so, have some marbles, and then kick off the weekend. And speaking of tomorrow's show, and the trade deadline got me thinking that a perfect topic for our Chud's Power Sports Power Poll would be the most intriguing teams in the league going into tomorrow's action. So let's get to it. We've got the top 5, and these are not the usual suspects. I'm going to start with 5, the Seattle Kraken. Kraken desperate for a superstar. In a playoff spot right now, 3 points up on the San Jose Sharks. So the Sharks are closing in. They've got 2 games in hand, and they're 3 points back. We've heard them associated with Robert Thomas and trying to make a big move. Shane Wright potentially available. Seattle makes that list. Next up is the Ducks. And the Ducks, it's crazy. The Ducks are 5 points clear of the Oilers with a game in hand. And they're 1 point out of the Pacific Division lead. This is way ahead of schedule, I think. But, with Coach Q there now, Leo Carlsson turning into a big-time star in the league, Cutter Gauthier, and all these young players, I think a lot of things are on the table for the Ducks this year that I don't think anyone really expected them to be at the start of the year. So to me, Anaheim is in at number 4. Staying in the West, the Utah Mammoth, I should say, are number 3 on this list. Utah in wildcard number 1 right now, in that dogfight with the Kraken. This is a team that has a ton of capital, a ton of top prospects. They've made a lot of picks. Now it's time to get into the playoffs and to push forward. They've been mentioned in Robert Thomas. We'll get to that with Jake in a few minutes after Tommy joins us. But to me, the Utah Mammoth, number 3 on this list. And then I turn to 2 Eastern teams. Number 2, the Detroit Red Wings. Remember last year when many thought that Dylan Larkin was maybe taking a little bit of a swipe at Steve Yzerman for not giving them a little bit more support at the deadline and down the stretch? It's very clear right now. This is a team that could use a center. We love Andrew Kopp. Andrew Kopp's 2C right now for a team that is in a playoff spot right now, holding down 3rd place in the Atlantic with 77 points. I think Yzerman makes a move. I would not at all be surprised if it is one of the centers that are on the market. So Detroit's number 2. And to me, number 1's Buffalo. They already thought they had a big fish in Colton Parayko, and they got the Heisman. on the no trade clause. So Buffalo has been playing incredible hockey. They've won 4 right out of the gate. They're only 2 points back of the Tampa Bay Lightning for top spot in the East right now, in the division. Carolina's still number 1. They've waited 14 years. The East is as wide open as it's ever been. There's a lot of guys that have Buffalo on their no trade list, but can Jarmo Kekalainen make some magic happen? I cannot wait to see what happens with the Buffalo Sabres. They're number 1 on our Chuds Power Sports Power Poll. Last day before the deadline, the 5 most intriguing teams. Give us your thoughts, or maybe a team that I missed that's very interesting to you. Let us know in the chat. As always, the Power Poll brought to you by our friends at Chuds Power Sports up in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. You can check them out online at chudspowersports.com. All right, the show continues. Coming up next, our buddy Tom Gazzola joins us from Edmonton. Clean Line is your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience for the best in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. And much like the Captain Adam Lowry, they've got you covered 24/7 with emergency services. Remember the number, 204-500-2001 for Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, Electrical for all your needs, residential, commercial, and when you're in a jam. The gang at BP is ready to welcome Jet fans back. Head to your local BP Jets Pick a Player contest for all Winnipeg Jet games. And, of course, those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. Staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And got to shout out our friends at Royal. What a run they had with the Olympic Games. Now we look ahead to the Stanley Cup playoffs, of course, and baseball season. Tons of new Jays and MLB gear coming in by the day. And as everyone's getting ready to maybe get out of town in and around spring break, don't forget Royal's amazing snowboard department with the best in deals on boots, bindings, decks, you name it. They've got it with the experts to help you get the right fit before you hit the slopes. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's Jake Bullen-Moss is going to join us. We got to hit some of these odds boards on where certain players are going to end up, but let's head out to Edmonton. Check out with handsome Tommy Gazzola from our friends at Edmonton Sports Talk as we get ready for the deadline. What's up, Gaz?
Hi, Huss. Great to be back. It's warm. The snow is melting. You get spring in the air, and that usually means playoff hockey. And I know it's not certain for the Oilers. So all is well, man. We got lots to talk about. And then the other thing, too, is football's coming up. Very excited to get going again.
Oh, yeah.
For CFL and TSN, and we'll see how many games I get. But, yeah, no, this is a good time of year. Very exciting. There's light out for longer. I find this, like, this spring and the renewal and all that new hope and freshness is it's nice. Well, I like it. I love it.
We don't have a lot of it around here right now going into the deadline with where our hockey team is. But I love the fact you brought up CFL season, the Bombers coming up. And I'm down with some melting. I'm looking at right now. Still a little bit of snow. We're not quite there yet, but it will be coming along. Hey, speaking of exciting things, we should shout out our good friend and colleague, Mr. Dustin Nielsen.
Yes.
Who has been entertaining fans on TSN broadcasts of CFL games for years. Big milestone for the big man tonight as he completes a childhood dream of finally getting his opportunity to call a National Hockey League game. He's down in Calgary, and he will be on the play-by-play call of the Sens Flames tonight.
Yep. I'll be watching that game. I'm very excited about it. I mean, Dusty and I have become pretty damn close. We started in this market covering the Oilers around the same time. I think I was doing covering games for the Score when they needed a stringer, like around 2008. And then Dusty, I think, just got to 1260 around that time. And for a little extra cash after I got hired by Oilers TV, he's like, hey, can you get me the contact for the Score? And so he was doing games covering for the Score as well. And we've always just we hit it off from the get-go. And then now we work together. We work together at 1260. Obviously, we started EST together, and we get to do CFL at TSN together. So he's kind of like an older brother, I guess. I'm the oldest brother in my family, but I look at him and he's a few years older than me, and we've had this great rapport. And
he's like 7 feet tall.
He's like 7 feet tall. I'm just under 6 feet, so we're not really brothers or anything. But man, I feel so happy for him. And I was joking with you guys, you and Remo, during the break there that watching him do these videos, he gets sentimental. He's a big guy with a big heart.
You know what? He is. Listen, I mean, being close with him, doing our show together for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. He's always said, he's loving what he's doing, but, his dream is to call NHL hockey, and he's getting that chance tonight. So just figured I'd let people know, if you've got access to the TSN broadcast of Ottawa, Calgary, make sure to check that out, because it's our boy from EST and the Lock Shot, Mr. Dustin Nielsen, that'll be making that happen.
I've got a quick question for you. I'm not trying to hijack this or anything, but he talked about that being like his lifetime goal in his career. I was trying to think, like, what's mine? Like, when I got into broadcasting, like, I wanted to do sports. I knew that. Like, what was yours? What was it? Like, what did you want to do in this industry?
You know what? It's funny you say that, because I have such a different path to doing this. Like, I started hustling tickets when I was like 18 years old, and I was in university, and I had always thought of my path would be sort of working my way through an organization to be, I don't know, like in management or running a team or something like that. And then, kind of took a weird route going into, from the organization here, some time with the Oilers, Hockey Canada.
Yep.
And then, I kind of thought that I'd just get into business or something like that, and got an opportunity and loved it. And then you just made the most of it. So it was very different. Like, I didn't go to like a broadcasting school thinking like, okay, this is going to be my plan.
Yeah.
It's, sometimes I really did say, I was just going to say yes to every opportunity that came by my way and see what happened. And, listen, you never thought that getting whacked by TSN would end up being one of the best things that ever happened to us. But here we are, Tommy, in our new digital world, having a great time with some of our best friends every day, and with hockey teams that are driving us crazy on a nightly basis. Don't
they always?
Oilers, listen, we have some fun taking shots at some of the moves that this team has made. It's wild with the amount of moves that they've made, what they've had to do. And it seems like a lot of times Stan Bowman's sort of borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today for some of the things that they've done. That being said, you need to focus on the present right now, because you've got Connor McDavid for 2 more years. Fill us in on this Dickinson deal. Were you surprised that a first-round pick was the cost to get him in there, and how much part of that payment was getting Mangiapane off the books?
I think a good chunk of it was to get Mangiapane out of here and create cap relief and some space to do a little bit more. Now it sounds like they're winding down and probably won't do much more, if anything. But when I saw that cost yesterday, Huss, I'm getting updates. I'm getting texts from tons of people. I've got scouts from other teams telling me what they think of this deal. And I thought initially, like, wow, that's a steep price to pay to get rid of a guy that you signed. So essentially to get rid of a mistake, if you will, for a pretty harsh term, or lack of a better term. You do get a player in Dickinson who's expected to be useful and can shore up the bottom 6 a little bit. I recognize that, and I can appreciate that. It might just be a rental as well. So that kind of stings a bit. I don't know what Colton Dach is going to be. I know he's a young player. I know he's a big body. He's a local guy. Whenever you say Dach around here, people kind of get excited. Oh, the Dach family and Kirby and the high praise that he had. And so I think there's some intrigue there with another local product that can bang some bodies and be physical. And I think that's something that the Oilers have lacked. But man, that price, to me, I just initially thought that was steep. And like you said, borrowing from tomorrow to kind of correct today and correcting things that were, errors or issues that were already created by Jeff Jackson and Stan Bowman. And that's tough. But the bottom line, I said this today on our morning show on the Hangout. I said, I think the Oilers are a better team on paper as of right now with Connor Murphy and Jason Dickinson and Colton Dach. Do I think they're tremendously better and all of a sudden a contender? No, probably not. But maybe this is the right mix. Proof will be in the pudding. Time will tell. Let's see if they can put it together. But as we've witnessed too, and I'll give Oilers fans credit for this. They're like, wow, price point for a lot of other moves are pretty steep right now. And we're seeing a lot of the pundits say, buyer's market, but it's going to cost you. And this was an example of that. But man, oh man, a first rounder for Jason Dickinson, Colton Dach, to get rid of Andrew Mangiapane, it seems steep to me still. Even understanding, recognizing, and taking in what is the trade landscape right now.
Assuming that this team, and I think that they will, down the stretch, kind of straightens it out, finishes in the top 3 in their division. Probably, let's say we give Vegas the division, a matchup against Anaheim. Even if they were the 3rd place team, they would be the favorites. You're always a contender when you've got 29 and 97 out there. And the big question is like, can Dickinson be a positive net player for the Oilers come playoff time? I think there's an argument that he can be. The biggest thing is for guys that have gotten almost nothing out of all year, like a Trent Frederick that they signed for 8 years with a full no move. Like, can that guy step up and all of a sudden be the guy that they wanted to? And that's the great thing about the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you get there, you get a chance to very quickly do a 180 on the narrative that lasted through the entire one. What's interesting to me, though, and I guess we'll find out for sure come 2 p.m. tomorrow, my worry about Edmonton is that, some of those guys do come through and they do play better and they look like, okay, yeah, what do we think? This is the Oilers. They've got these guys. Will we be talking about the goaltending again come playoff time?
Might.
And that is one thing that I thought that maybe, especially with Binnington only having one more year on his deal, that there might have been a way that they could have gone and kind of taken a run with him. Just knowing, what he's been able to do in clutch situations, as bad as he's been so far this year. But from the sounds of it, it's going to be Jarry and Ingram and, spray and pray, as they say.
Yep. Well, and it's crazy too. Like, we see it every day when we do the pre and post game show and we do our shows on our station throughout the day, and how quickly the opinion of Tristan Jarry has changed in Edmonton. At first, like, this is great. He wants to be here. Great history with the Oil Kings, tremendous success with the Memorial Cup. And he gets hurt after a couple of decent starts and gets some results with some wins. And then he comes back and it's not been pretty. Listen, it's not been pretty. And we know that the Oilers don't defend particularly well as a 5-man unit. I'll stress that. Yes, the defense isn't great either. But people want to fire Jarry into the moon, just like the way they did with Stu Skinner. We've even had people say, why didn't they just go with Ingram and Skinner and see how that went first and then see if you can make a trade? It's flipped so quickly, the opinion of Tristan Jarry, and I understand why. And the other thing too, I'll say, like, now all of a sudden everybody around the city is a Connor Murphy expert. And it's like, oh, really? You know everything about him now. That's great. Or how great Jason Dickinson's going to mesh with these guys. And these two might, But in 2 weeks, we might be talking about a slumping Oilers team with, why did Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson trade for a couple of bums and give away a first rounder? And why didn't they just wait to move on from Mangiapane in the summer? That could happen too. I don't think it will, but
the cap's such a big part of this, though, Tommy. And
it is.
The fact that those guys have expiring contracts, like you see what you're happening, at least they don't have that 3+ on the books for Mangiapane. And the one thing I'll say about the Oilers, as long as they've got Draisaitl and McDavid, they're a player in free agency. Like if it's the Oilers of the decade of darkness, no one's going to want to go there. You know that you've got those two guys in this window. There's a lot of guys that will be into taking a run and, hey, I'll sign a 1-year deal. I'll sign a 2-year deal to try to be a team that could win a Stanley Cup and what that does for your career. So it will be interesting. Let me ask you about a player I'm going to talk with Jake about in a minute. Nazem Kadri. If you had to bet as to where he's at on Saturday, is it with the Flames or is it somewhere else? And who makes the most sense?
Wow. Well, I like Cadri a lot. If Craig Conroy could pull off moving him out like he did with Vigier yesterday, I would say they trade him. This is just pure speculation. I'm not dialed into the Flames right now, so I apologize. But yeah, if I was the Flames, I'd try to flip them for some pieces. I'd try to get somebody young in a prospect. I'd try to get some high-end draft picks if you could. Squeeze as much out as you can to start the reload and get going as you get set to move into a new building. So I'd heard like Colorado might be another destination for him, but we just saw them make their move.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's happening.
Let me hit you with this for
Cadri. Let me
Cadri.
know. Sure.
The Detroit Red Wings. Detroit is a team. They're in a playoff spot. They haven't been there for a long time. They've got Dylan Larkin, and then they got a big hole. Like Andrew Kopp's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's playing second line center right now with this team. Like the addition of Cadri, and again, Kadri's going to have to approve. I mean, he's from Southern Ontario. That's not far from Detroit. To me, that is a fit. And that's a team that I was just kind of going through the teams that really kind of intrigue me going down the stretch. And I would put Buffalo in there as well, although Buffalo at center is a little bit more, they're a little bit more set up. Now, again, can you trust that Josh Norris is going to be able to play? That's a huge question. But both of those teams, I think we've already seen, with the swing they took on Parayko that ended up getting nullified by the no trade, is something that was interesting. And by the way, for everyone here in Winnipeg, Remis just sent me this. Mike Fuda was on the Fan Hockey Show today and said that this isn't the first time that Colton Parayko has said no to a trade.
Wow.
And he had previously turned down a big deal to go to Winnipeg. So, interesting note. I can't say that that's surprising. They talked for a long time about talking about Parayko, wanting that big guy to play with Josh Morrissey. They played together for too short of a time in the Olympics and the Four Nations. But some interesting stuff. Anyways, Tommy, I know you guys got a busy one tomorrow. When are you on tomorrow? Because I know Dusty's in Calgary. He'll be coming back. I know there's going to be extended trade deadline coverage like we're doing. No lock shop tomorrow. What's your sched on EST? It's going to be a long one, I'm sure.
Yeah, a long day, especially with the game against the Canes. I'll be at the rink, so just popping in periodically, doing hits, kind of updates. And it sounds like it might be quiet, but who knows? Things could change. I'm just going to say this. First of all, Kadri's a big game player, in my opinion, to wrap up that thought.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be a great get for the Red Wings if they want to make a run in the East. And Merrick is throwing this stuff out about Darnell Nurse. This is just my take on it. I don't think he's crazy.
What now? Just fill people in if they hadn't seen that.
People were talking about maybe moving on from Nurse, and they were saying Merrick was saying it. I've stayed away from Twitter the last little while because it's an all-out war in hockey Twitter. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I stay out of that crap. But there's some talk about Darnell. But he's got a full no move, doesn't he? He's got total control.
Every guy on the Oilers has it. They
give away those things like candy. But maybe something in the offseason. I was told from someone within the organization, like 100% not happening before the deadline. So I just think that that's not crazy. That's just my opinion, but we'll see what happens. Should be an interesting off season for sure.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, listen, we'll catch up, maybe touch base tomorrow as well, depending on what happens in and around the league. Have a great one, dude. Say what's up to the fellas back at ESTHQ, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Bolin Moss, your background looks cute, by the way. Good to see you, pal.
Yeah. Aloe yoga influencer Jake Bolin Moss about to join us on the program. Take it easy, pal. There's Tom Gazzola. Yes, Jake is in. We were just talking about Nazem Kadri. We're gonna hit up a few markets with Jake on where some of these players are going to go to. Just before that, though, big thanks and a reminder to do what you can do to help the HSC Foundation fund a need campaign. I do want to thank our friends at the HSC Foundation and remind you all that right now the Fund a Need campaign is well underway. This is so important, big weight. They're looking to raise $425,000, and every one of your donations will be matched. So it will be doubled. Of course, you'll get a tax receipt for it. They're looking to get some new surgical equipment that will allow 200 more spine surgeries and 400 more joint replacement surgeries a year. So if you go to Health Sciences Center Foundation, to the Fund a Need campaign, and help us raise $425,000, and everything is matched by the Manitoba Spine Program. And hey, making our finishing touches with our winner to get out to Akens Lake this year. Don't forget, folks, if you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing experience here in the province, where you can be on the water in less than a couple hours from the city of Winnipeg, Akens Lake is the spot. World-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Terren family and the Akens team. Booking now throughout the summer, over 75% full. So check it out now at akenslake.com and get your bookings. And if you are looking for a great summer job for you students out there, go to akenslake.com and inquire as well about opportunities for the upcoming year. All right, before we're finished today, we're going to get to the cool bet lines. Lots going on. I got a few picks for the games. But we have some trade deadline odds on some key players around the league. So let's welcome in our guy, Jake Bolin Moss from Coolbet to the show. Jake, what's up? How I would say how's it going? But Leaf fans, Jet fans, we're probably all in the same boat right now. Although you guys managed to make a move today and got one of those first-round picks that had gone out the door back in. What did you think of the move?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, given the way they've kind of come back off the Olympic break and how poor it's been, I think Jets fans, Leaf fans, we're all kind of in the same boat here. It's tank mode. Luckily for you guys, I think you still have your first rounder this year. The Leafs are sitting there with only top 5 protection on that pick. Without Boston stealing that away. But they did go recoup a first-round pick for 2027 in the Nick Waugh trade to Colorado. So, it's a Colorado pick. It's probably going to be in the high 20s or even, it could be the last pick of the draft. Second. But at the same time, it's like they had to recoup some – restock the cupboards as you will. And, a guy like Nick Waugh, short-lived time here, but you flip a Marner situation where he was walking out the door regardless. You realize, he's going to Vegas. There might be some tampering here. You kind of threaten Vegas. They say, okay, we'll send you Waugh. You sign Marner. We'll do the sign and trade. They get Marner. Leafs get Waugh, and then they get a first-round pick plus a 5th round in return. So, not a little bit like pretty tidy work, I'd say, from Brad, but I hope this isn't the end of the road. I think there's guys like Bobby McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Scott Lawton's name's been floating out around there. It just depends on the demand. All of a sudden, this market that was apparently, a buyer's market and there were so many options has slowly become a seller's market. And all of a sudden, some of these teams are, we see what happens in the Parayko situation. All of a sudden, guys are like, nah, I ain't waving. I'm not going to Buffalo. So then all of a sudden, teams like Buffalo or Detroit are going to start looking around at different teams. Hopefully, Leafs and the Jets can recoup some more assets and set themselves up for a quick turnaround here.
Yeah, the Jets are in sort of a real bit of a bind. I guess we'll see. I mean, Chevy I'm sure he's talking to a lot of people. We'll see whether there's a demand for the guys that they're willing to move and what can come back. Well, there's some key players that are out there right now. Binnington, Blake Coleman, Robert Thomas, Vince Trocheck, Nazem Kadri. And as always, the Coolbet boys have put together some odds on the NHL trade deadline. If you go to NHL and then click on futures, you've got these ones. Let's just go through a few of these. Jordan Binnington. And it's very simple. It's what organization will they be with on March 8th, which is essentially post-trade deadline.
Exactly.
The bidder is the Blues. Now, when this opened last night, Blues were plus 100. The Habs were plus 350. And I think the Sens were like 6 or 7 to 1. The way it is right now is Blues are minus 110. Montreal plus 275. Ottawa and Philly. Philly's kind of a bizarre one, I would think. But he does have a year left on his deal. Oilers, which makes a lot of sense. I just don't know how they do it. And Utah and San Jose 10 to 1 and the Ducks at 12 to 1. I actually did plunk a little change down on the Habs at plus 350. It is now plus 275. If they do move on from him, like Montreal, with the team they have and how wide open the East is, which is going to be a common theme throughout these, like I think that makes a ton of sense. With the prospects and the picks that they have, you bring Binnington in to fortify that goaltending situation. I mean, to me, everyone is live in the East right now. I mean, obviously you got Tampa and Carolina, who are sort of the two established teams. I was just going through this, Jake. The 6 other teams in playoff spots, I'm pretty sure from our WSD winners preview at the start of the year, every one of those teams was plus money to make the playoffs. So you have to feel like it's anyone's East right now. And for teams like the Habs that would love to go on a big run, you know how important goaltending is. And Binner's a guy that could potentially do that.
Well, yeah, and look at the way things are trending, Huss. Florida Panthers probably not making the playoffs. Leafs probably not making the playoffs. So, teams that have been there in previous years, especially a team like Florida, who's made 3 long runs now, is not going to be there. So, you have the likes of Tampa. Obviously, they've gone on some nice playoff runs in recent memory. But it's going to be really, really different look. Carolina, but we know they're prone to choke in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's like you can just draw that into your bracket right now. It's going to be really interesting to see who ends up, making these moves ahead of Friday, a team like Montreal, a team like Buffalo, to see if they can take an extra jump and take a shot at this thing. When I look at Binnington, it's funny. So I posted this earlier and, our friends over at Puckpedia helped promote it from the X, and they got a lot of traction online, the Binnington odds. And a lot of people were like, get my team's name off of there. I don't even want my team mentioned in the Jordan Binnington sweepstakes. So I think there's still a lot of people sour on Jordan Binnington. Obviously hasn't been playing with a great team. St. Louis the last couple of years, hasn't looked that good. I know his numbers don't look that good, but he's pretty good for Canada. I know that was more of a super team, the way they were set up. But at the same time, I feel like at the end of the day, Jordan Binnington is a big game player. And you look at, a team like Montreal and who they have there in net with, Montembeault and Dobish. And, if you slide a Binnington into that rotation, he becomes your number 1 guy in the playoffs. I think you'd be feeling just as good as anybody else in the East if you're the Montreal Canadiens. So, yeah, I don't mind the pick there, Huss, from you.
No doubt. Now, the other one that I played, and I really like this, I just brought him up to Tommy Gazzola, is Nazem Kadri. Mm-hmm. And yesterday it was plus 100 to stay with the Flames. That's now plus 110. The Avalanche were the favorite at like 4 plus 450. I think that's a lot less now that they've just given up that first round pick in the deal they made earlier today.
Yeah.
The team that I bet, and I was plus 750 at the time, it's now down to 6, is Detroit. Does it not make too much sense for Yzerman to make a move knowing that this is an organization? They've had the new arena. They've gone through this whole rebuild. They've done nothing. They need to be a playoff team, and they'd love to get some wins and Cadri is a guy that comes into your lineup, immediately bumps the centers down behind Dylan Larkin. Like Andrew Kopp's a hell of a player, but I mean, he's a 2C on a playoff team. Like, I don't know. And there's, thought, would he want to go there? I mean, to be honest, Buffalo and Detroit for Cadri, I think are sort of intriguing because, of course, he's a Southern Ontario guy, really close to home. Like, I think that sort of does fit. And just looking at the hockey part of it, you add Nazem Kadri into that Detroit lineup, a guy that's won a cup. He's got that playoff experience, has a real bite to his game. To me, the Wings become a much more formidable team if they're able to get him. And even at the 6-1 he's at right now, I would love to see Kadri go to the Wings. I think that would make them a much, much tougher out and a team that should be there in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, value-wise, Huss, the price is right. Like you mentioned, 6-1 to go to the Wings, 12-1 to go to the Sabres if you want to play a little sprinkle there as well. Yeah, I mean, if Kadri's getting moved, I think both those routes could be possible. Obviously, like you mentioned, Huss, Andrew Kopp, great player. Is he a 2C that's going to lead you on a long playoff run? I don't know. Sliding in a Nazem Kadri there might look real nice for a Detroit team that's, hungry to get back to the playoffs. And I did see, not to keep bringing up Puckpedia, but, they do run a little podcast and they were talking to, about Patrick Kane and Detroit, Kane having picked Detroit and what that brought to the dressing room. And then when they didn't make really any moves last deadline, the team was a little bummed and, they didn't end up making a run at the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs. Well, now they're on a really good trajectory to get there. And I think a couple moves could really bolster that room. A big move like Nazem Kadri might be all they need to really boost this team over the top. So I don't mind the pick. I mean, especially at the number, like I mentioned, on 6-1 is probably worth a sprinkle if Kadri's going to get moved.
Yeah, and that again, that's down from 750 last night. I was on the right side of two numbers. I was on the wrong side of another one. The other one that I got on last night that is intriguing is Robert Thomas. And the line has changed big time on this one. Last night, Seattle was 3-1, and I really feel like this is a team that's going all out to try to get a big time, top line player. I mean, they've said it as much. They don't have that guy right now. They've got assets. Seattle's now down to 6-1. The Habs are also there, and again, the Habs very intriguing. For a number of these players with where they are right now. St. Louis minus 115 just to stay, and maybe they revisit that in the offseason. But Montreal, Seattle at 6, Utah at 7. And I think the Utah number changed maybe just because of the price that they paid to get Weegar, although it was all second rounders. It wasn't like it was their prime prospects or picks. And then you got Buffalo at 8, Islanders at 9, Detroit at 9, Boston at 10. Of those teams, if you were going to make a wager between Montreal, Seattle, Utah, Buffalo, Islanders, Detroit, Boston for Robert Thomas, where would you place it?
Yeah, I mean, Boston stresses me out, if I'm being honest, Hust. I wouldn't be shocked if they're in on somebody here. I don't know if it's going to be Robert Thomas. I am interested in the whole Buffalo situation. I know we've already touched on them a little bit, but the fact that they went for Parayko and had a deal in place, and Parayko basically said, no, I'm not going to waive. That makes me think that they're absolutely still in the market here for somebody. Now, I know Robert Thomas and Colton Parayko are completely two different style players. One's a defenseman, large defenseman, other one's a centerman, totally different situation. But listen, they'd already tried to make a deal with St. Louis. St. Louis was willing. Colton Parayko says no. That deal gets, canned. Does Buffalo sniff back around and go, hey, okay, what about Robert Thomas? What's going on there? Can we get a piece of that? So that's a team that I'm interested in really a lot of these markets. And, their name keeps coming up, like we mentioned, the Cadri market and whatnot. But, I don't know. I think just based on those ones there, Buffalo wouldn't shock me. Although, is that their need right now? I don't know. And then I think I saw a rumor that the Islanders actually were kicking tires on Robert Thomas. So, the Islanders have enough. I feel like this Thomas deal is going to be pretty big, right? Like you can imagine a center with control at his age, like you're going to get a pretty big return if you're the St. Louis Blues, and you're probably not going to just give him away for nothing. So, do the Islanders have enough to make something happen? Maybe. And if they do, look out. The Islanders, Huss, as much as I find them a very boring team, they've been pretty electric this year. Bo Horvat's had a great season. Matthew Barzal, Matthew Schaefer has really driven life into that team. They're really fun to watch. They should be in the mix come playoff time. And I think Robert Thomas would be a huge add for a team like that here.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get him for like a prospect, a first-round pick, or a couple picks, I mean, right now they've got Cal Ritchie playing second-line center. I mean, if you could go up with Horvat and Thomas, I mean, all of a sudden that team, I think, is far more legit. There's one untouchable on that team, and he's number 48, Schaefer, who's going to win the Rookie of the Year. Anyways, folks, if you want to have some fun for trade deadline day, head on over to CoolBet. NHL Under the Futures. You'll see the trade deadline specials, and you can jump on those over the course of tonight. And the lines, I'm sure, will change, but that's where things are right now. Now, before we go, Jake, let's get to the CoolBet lines tonight. Busy night in the league. And, this is a night where a lot of players might be being held out for trade reasons to, don't want guys to get hurt. Doesn't sound like that's happening here in Winnipeg, which I think is surprising a few people, but we'll see what happens once the warm-ups get going. Florida is in Columbus. Blue Jackets a slight favorite at -114. Leafs in New York against the Rangers. Leafs +110, Rangers -130. Imagine the Leafs have a few guys that aren't playing tonight.
Yeah, I think basically they're just going to sit those guys they're expecting to get moved. So the OEL, Bobby McMahon, Scott Laughton were the three that sat the other night. They're likely to sit probably again here as they kind of wait to see if there's going to be a move or not.
Utah is a -125 favorite in Philly. Buffalo's a slight, basically it's a pick 'em against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Same thing with the Preds and Bruins. Preds a slight favorite over Boston. Tampa's the biggest favorite on the board, actually, here in the peg tonight. Tampa -189. Jets +158. You got the Sens -167 in Calgary. Calgary's +141. And then the Kings at home to the Islanders. Islanders lost last night to the Ducks. LA -135. I do like Ottawa in a bounce back spot against Calgary tonight. And we'll see if Calgary plays, all of those guys. Wouldn't be surprised if a few of those guys are out. I'm going to keep riding with the Blue Jackets. And listen, we've talked before about Florida, who's now, as it stands, would have the 9th pick in the draft. The lottery could change that. If they finish bottom 10, if their pick is in the bottom 10, they keep it. If it's 11 or worse, it goes to the Blackhawks from the Seth Jones trade. So, knowing and listening to Matthew Tkachuk on their pod, I mean, they pretty much know where they're at right now. They've got their 2 cup rings. They'll look forward to the rest in the offseason. This isn't the year for them. So I'm going to ride with Columbus, a motivated Columbus team. And we'll see even AJ Greer probably not playing tonight, a couple other guys for Florida. And then I was thinking about Buffalo, and Buffalo's been great. 4 straight out of the gate. Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, has Buffalo's number. They're 2-0. So I kind of kept that one off the play this week. But do like Boston in Nashville. Nashville's lost 3 in a row. They're another team that's waiting to see who's getting sold. So we put together a little ride with Husford tonight. It's in the combo cards. Columbus, Boston, and Ottawa boosted from +493 to +568 if you want to ride with me tonight on that one. And the super boost tonight is Kucherov to get a point here in Winnipeg, and over 2.5 3-pointers for Jamal Murray, the Canadian, against the Lakers. Bunch of other great exclusives, the Lamplighters, points from the point. You can check those out. And we do have a curling parlay tonight, which I don't mind. Matty Dunstone, Braden Calvert, New Brunswick and Alberta tonight in that kind of the chalk for that final draw. And by the way,
that's what it's called. It's rock chalk, baby.
Right, and by the way, how about Brad Gushu just beat Brad Jacobs to finish at 8-0 for the round robin. He's retiring. It is at home in Newfoundland. They were perfect. I mean, I know we looked at the odds beforehand, and it kind of seemed like it was Dunstone and Jacobs and then everybody else. But, man, Brad Gushue at home, having just beaten Jacobs, I think let everyone know that he's not going quietly into retirement and could be on the weekend. So a lot of great stuff waiting for us over at Coolbet heading into tonight.
Huss, you got to tip your cap to Gushue. I've been watching a bit in the mornings. I'll do my morning walk and throw in the curling, and it's been fun to watch. Yeah, that's a big one for Gushue at home. I don't know how you're not rooting on him right now. I spoke with our guy Matty Ice earlier today, and I just wanted to know what the situation was in this final draw here this afternoon or this evening, I guess, because Calvert still has a chance to get in, but he's going to need some help. So if Alberta's going to win Pool B, Cooey's been unbelievable too. Another great story on the other side of the bracket. I think they were undefeated last time I checked.
Yeah, 7-0.
Dunstone's going to qualify. If McEwen beats Dunstone, then McEwen gets second, Dunstone will get third. If Saskatchewan loses, McEwen Rink loses, and Calvert wins, and New Brunswick loses, Calvert will get in at third. Sask loses, Calvert loses, Sask is in at third. And then if Sask loses, Calvert wins, and New Brunswick wins, we got a three-way tie broken by the last stone draw a distance. I don't even know how that one works. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do, but Matty Ice has laid it out as absolute drama coming up in this final draw. That's going at 6 Eastern. I guess that'll be 5 o'clock Central for you guys.
Oh, man. So, you know what? If you're pulling like I am for Calvert to make it in, we're going to need the 1-6 Tanaka Rink of BC to pull off the upset against James Grattan. I'm not sure what the final draw, well, I guess it's not even set because they do it before every game. So we'll see how that is. But yeah, Mike McEwen, if he beats Dunstone, he's in. But Matty Dunstone is the favorite in this one, and Braden Calvert's also the favorite in his game against Northern Ontario. Going to be a great finish to the Brier. And then they had live betting today, actually, on the Canada-Newfoundland game.
There will be live betting again tonight, Huss, for the Saskatchewan-Dunstone match as well.
Wicked. And then obviously on the, which should be a great playoff weekend, from the Rock. All over at Coolbet. Folks, check out the promos. Always lots of good stuff going on. For that, WBC, every $25 bet for the WBC, you get a chance to win a Jays trip out to Toronto. So I'll be getting in on that. And I love our pick, by the way. We got the Canada to qualify and either the Dominican Republic or Japan to win. That's at plus 475 in the Winnipeg Sports Talk exclusives. So jump on that. Jakey, have a great night tonight. Thanks as always. And we will get back together next week. I guess March Madness is coming. So I'm going to be leaning on you for some of your great college mind for that. And we'll be playing out the stretch here for the rest of the regular season, just trying to win some bets and maybe not always hoping that our team's winning. Although you guys have already traded your pick. Leafs should be banned from trading first-round picks to the Bruins. It has been a disaster. Wasn't that the
I don't
Tuukka Rask?
disagree. It might have been the Rask deal, or who knows? I mean, Kessel was brought in from Boston. I don't know. Every time it just seems to not work in our favor. Yeah, maybe the Raycroft deal.
Yeah,
they got Raycroft, and then the first ended up being Rask or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it was like a really high pick. It was almost, and then there was anyways, there's been a few unfortunate first rounders being thrown out.
Tell me about it.
We'll see whether, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe you end up getting into the top 5.
Well, that's kind of what I'm rooting for now. Losses, see if a few teams can jump you. You get into the lottery and you work your way into the top 5, and you somehow have your pick this year. You've recouped some first rounds some top picks in the next couple of years, and then maybe you can restock the cupboards a bit with the prospect pool not looking very good. I will say WBC, last thing, Huss. I know I got to go here, but WBC's tomorrow. So they play tonight. I think 10 o'clock. Australia is playing. And then starting at like 5 a.m. tomorrow, there's 7 games in every single slate time. It's going to be unbelievable. Make sure you're getting before you're making those bets, you're clicking on the apply button for that Best on Bets Toronto trip. You'll get a chance at the end of the WBC, which will be in a couple weeks. You'll get a chance at a draw and a possibility to go see a Jays series. It'll be 2 games in Toronto, 2 nights stay. We'll get you here.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. You click on promotions. It's the first row. Just say, see the Blue Jays live. You go in there, click on participate. It'll take you over to the thing, and then, you just apply it. I guess I've already done it, but click apply on it. Remo, you can do that.
I think you got to be signed in, Remo. That was the only thing.
Yeah, I'm not signed in.
You won't be able to see. No worries.
No problem.
Yeah,
but anyways, yes, if you're
looking for it, sign in.
Getting in on the baseball, make sure to do that, and you'll be in for that raffle. Jakey, have a good one. Good luck with the picks tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you, boys. We'll talk soon.
You got it. There's Jake Boland-Moss at Jake Boland-Moss on Twitter, and again, follow the X account over at CoolBet Canada. Remo, you have any picks in the chamber for tonight?
I'm just looking through. I haven't looked at anything. Let me just double check this. I'm too busy managing this chat house. People are hot today. Fan sentiment and the Jets. We'll see where it lands. Tomorrow, a lot of talk about no trade clauses. I do want to add, I don't understand. This happens all the time, Huss, where a team signs a guy to a no trade clause, and then they just make a trade with them and ask them to waive, and then it gets leaked. I don't know. Seems dumb to me.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who did that. They said it wouldn't have been the players. It wouldn't have been. I mean, I guess the team say, "Hey, we got something done with this guy," hoping to maybe put some pressure on him to do it.
They did it with Krug a couple of years ago. They tried to get him to. They got leaked that they were trading him and tried to get him to waive. I don't know why these GMs are giving out the no trade clause. Are they thinking, we'll just ask him to waive later if we really have to? It seems. Puts the player in a bad position here. Now you got Sabres fans like, F Parayko's guy didn't want to come. Well, that's his right. He signed for a year. He's got 4 more years
left. Did the same
left.
thing to us, as we just learned from Mike Fuda.
Yeah.
We'd heard that rumored for a long time, but I will say the Jets have done a good job at, at least when they have been in those situations, not crying about it publicly. But I know for a fact there's been a few situations like that that's gone down that way in the past. And listen, it might make your GM look a little bit better, but they know what they signed up for, and it's probably not getting any sympathy from everyone that's going crazy in the chat. But that, unfortunately, is the reality of being a Winnipeg or being a Buffalo in the NHL when it comes to weather, taxes, media, all of those things. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's going to be a banger, though. A big show tomorrow, 11 a.m. until 3 o'clock or so. So join us early tomorrow. We'll get going. Kevin Sawyer's going to join us. Mike McIntyre, Ken Weeb, Jeff Hamilton, myself, Remis, Connor. Liz, I'm sure, will pop by at some point. I will be all over it. All the deals around the league with a focus on what is happening and what isn't happening here in Winnipeg. Shout out to everyone out at WST night tonight. Remo will be hosting. And we'll look forward to seeing you all there. My apologies. I gotta get ready for this show tomorrow, but should be an interesting one tonight. And I'm hopefully going to get a chance to see some of Dusty do that game on TSN 5 between the Sens and the Calgary Flames. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making this show happen each and every day. Thanks to JP Vigier, Brandon Rewucki, Tom Gazzola, Jake Boland-Moss, Michael Remis, Connor Rabchak, and all of you for keeping it spicy in the chat and being with us throughout the show today. Join us tomorrow, a.m., early, 11 o'clock. We'll get going for our trade deadline special. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night and enjoy the game. We'll see you here on WST tomorrow, a little early, for our trade deadline special.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.